This may sound like a depressing topic, but I'm going to try and keep it light and humorous, even though it is a serious disease. I am a type 1 diabetic, and I want to share with you important info about this disease and what it's like to live with it, the ups and downs, some diabetic humor for you. If you don't get it now, you will later. Type 1 diabetes, I'm going to call it T1D for short, was once known as juvenile diabetes. It is an autoimmune disease that affects millions around the world. For mysterious reasons, the incidence of T1D in children has been increasing throughout the globe, 3 to 5% a year. Type 1 occurs when the immune system attacks the insulin-producing beta cells in the pancreas. Normally, after you eat, carbs are broken down into glucose the body can use for energy. For type 1 diabetes, insulin is injected just under the skin through fatty tissue so the glucose can get into the body cells to be used for energy. Type 1 is the lesser known type of diabetes. The biggest difference is type 1 is permanent and we must take insulin injections to live, and this is forever. Type 2 can sometimes be cured with lifestyle changes or treated with oral meds. Type 2 usually happens in older adults, but is increasing in younger people due to obesity. There is no clear answer why there is an increase in T1D. Genetics, viral or bacterial infections, the overuse of antibacterial cleaners, chemicals, and toxins in our foods, and vaccines are all possibilities. We recently celebrated Thanksgiving, and it's tradition in my family to say what we are most thankful for, and I always include insulin in my thank you, because without it, I wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't be able to eat. Insulin was discovered in 1921. From then until the 1980s, all insulin was extracted from the pancreases of cattle and pigs. The insulin we use today is manufactured through DNA technology and is identical to insulin made by the human pancreas. Now we have the choice of insulin pens or pumps. Pens must be carried with you everywhere, and you take an injection whenever you eat. I have an insulin pump, which is shown on the screen. It's purple and it has a cracked screen. It's attached to me all the time except when I shower. It works like a mechanical pancreas, constantly sending me small amounts of insulin throughout the day. And no, I'm not wearing a beeper, and I'm not playing video games. I used to dread getting my finger pricked at the doctor's office for checkups. Now, that's nothing. The tips of my fingers are covered in tiny dots from all the blood sugar tests, and you can always tell where I've been by the trail of test strips I leave behind. I go through roughly 6 to 8 test strips a day. I was not born with T1D. I wasn't diagnosed until I was 21, which is rather late for T1D, and it happened the same month I got married. I got married August 4th of 2007, and I was diagnosed on the 21st. I was very irritable and had no energy. I had a thirst that could never be quenched and got extremely thin. My strapless wedding gown was refitted 3 times, and it was still big for me the day of the wedding. I figured out what I had by Googling my symptoms. Lesson learned, don't be afraid to go to the doctor. I asked my husband what it was like to live with a diabetic, and the first thing he said was, "We never make spaghetti." He also said he feels guilty eating carby foods even when I'm not around because he knows I shouldn't eat them. I deal with needles now on a daily basis. Insulin pen needles are pretty small, but they were still causing scar tissue. I switched to the pump and only have to insert my infusion set every 3 days with a rather large needle. My husband has trypanophobia, the fear of needles. He has actually fainted at the sight of them. Not great for him to be married to a diabetic. Diabetes increases your risk for many serious health problems. The good news, with the correct treatment and recommended lifestyle changes, many people with diabetes are able to prevent or delay the onset of complications. There's only a couple people I know that also have T1D. We can talk about things like, so what was your last A1C? And what kind of pump do you have? What's your carb insulin ratio? And what kind of meter do you use? This is my diabetic buddy that I met on a trip to Oregon. Now whenever I go out there, we have to meet up to talk diabetes, and there we are showing off our pumps. Carb counting is so important in the daily life of a diabetic since carbohydrates turn into sugar when we digest them. I try to keep a meal at 40 grams of total carbs or less. For every 6 grams of carbs I eat, I send 1 unit of insulin. So for a meal of 40 carbs, that would be around 7 units. Now, don't get me started on regular soda. 1 can of soda is at least 40 total carbs. That is an entire meal's worth of insulin for me. Bagels, pastas, cereals, cakes, pies, donuts, cookies, all the sweet things in life I try to avoid, but I can eat things in moderation, which is a good way for everyone to live. Every day is filled with highs and lows. It's very difficult to keep my blood sugar stable. When I get high, I can tell because I start feeling thirsty and sleepy. But highs don't bother me too much. It's the lows that are horrible, and they can come on quickly. My heart beats really fast, and I start to sweat and shake and feel dizzy. I'm actually kind of low right now, so when I'm really low, I want to eat everything in sight. Sometimes it's exciting to get a low, because then I'll be like, yeah, I can eat something carby. But then sometimes I'll overeat, and then I get really high. It's a vicious cycle. I've gotten some hilarious looks from people when I say out in public, man, I feel high right now. Doctors are working hard to find a cure for T1D, but there isn't anything out there yet. Luckily, it's a disease that is treatable and something that a person can live with as long as you keep control of your blood sugar levels. Thanks, and help share the awareness of T1D.